Let's talk about CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans. They're currently 0-2 as I record this video to open the 2025 season, and it is not ideal at all. We'll talk about how they performed against the Los Angeles Rams in Week 1 and how they performed tonight against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I want to say this. There's 15 games left in the regular season. A lot of things can change. So the way that the Houston Texans look right now in mid-September, they could look completely different in October, November, and December. Usually teams get better and some teams get worse. That's just how the NFL works. But let's talk about the biggest problem here with the Houston Texans. It's not DeMeco Ryans. It's not CJ. You have a brand new offensive coordinator in Nick Cali. It's going to take some time for him to get adjusted into this role. He's giving CJ more opportunity to go out there and change plays at the line of scrimmage, to change protection, and to get him comfortable in this system. You had Bobby Slowick over the last 2 years. You fired him after last year. You go to the NFL playoffs. You defeat the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, Bobby Slowick was not a good offensive coordinator last year, but it was only so much that he can do because of a terrible offensive line. And that's the biggest problem here. The Houston Texans have not had a good offensive line in a very long time, even dating back to when Deshaun Watson was a starting quarterback. And the biggest negative on Deshaun Watson at that point in time, before the allegations surfaced, he holds onto the football for a long time. He plays hero ball. But at the same time, his offensive line units were not good enough. Nick Caserio does not have an eye for offensive line talent. He's done a phenomenal job with drafting defensive players, going out there and drafting CJ and at the skill position and bringing in DeMeco Ryans. I will give him credit for that. But listen to these picks on this offensive line here by Nick Caserio. You drafted Ariante Ursary. I think that he could be a very good player, but he's a rookie. That's a second-round pick because you trade out of the first round in this year's draft class. Kenyon Green, he was terrible. Then you trade him to the Philadelphia Eagles. They cut him. He was a terrible offensive lineman. He was one of the worst offensive linemen in the NFL at the guard position. Juice Shrugs, he hasn't worked out. He was a second-round pick. Blake Fisher so far, second-round pick. He hasn't worked out either. So you're not hitting on those draft picks with these offensive linemen. And you traded your best offensive lineman from last year in Laramie Tunsil. He was the best offensive lineman with the Houston Texans for a very long time. You traded him because of the contract situation and because he is getting older. He is now with the Washington Commanders. He had a lot of penalties to begin the year, but he was still the best part of this offensive line, and he dealt with injuries with the Houston Texans. He was far from a perfect player, but he was still the best player up front, protecting CJ every single week when he was fully healthy. You now have an offensive line, Ariante at the left tackle position, Lincoln Thomason at the left guard position, Jake Andrews, Ed Ingram, Titus Howard. I would say right now, Titus Howard may be their best offensive lineman at the tackle position. CJ does not have enough time inside the pocket. He got sacked 52 times last year. He has been sacked 6 times in 2 games so far. 3 times against the Los Angeles Rams last week and 3 times tonight against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers, they have a very good front seven, and the same with the Los Angeles Rams. It is no shame in losing against those teams, but it's the way that you're losing against them. You're running into the same situation over and over again. I don't care how big and how physical you are. You take enough hits in this league, it's going to take a toll on you. And it's starting to take a toll on CJ. He doesn't trust his offensive line. This is not a David Carr situation many years ago, to where he was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL, and they broke him even before he had the chance to go out there and prove himself. But CJ doesn't trust his offensive line, so now he's drifting to the outside. He's rushing himself into sacks. He's trying to go out there and find an open wide receiver. Outside of Nico Collins, you have a lot of unproven wide receivers. Christian Kirk, he's dealing with a hamstring injury right now. He was not able to play tonight against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He wasn't able to play last week against the Los Angeles Rams. But we all understand that about Christian Kirk. He's a solid number 2, number 3 wide receiver, but he's always dealt with injuries in the past. He's always dealt with problems in terms of catching the football in the open field. He's not the most consistent wide receiver. But he will fit very nicely in this system because he's easily the number 2, and he's a phenomenal wide receiver in terms of beating man coverage. The problem that the Houston Texans have run into, offensive line issues and wide receiver issues. When Nico Collins went down last year, you had Stephon Diggs, you had Tank Dell. Stephon Diggs became the number 1 wide receiver. And this is part of why Bobby Slowick got fired. When they brought in Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon, you have this team with Nico Collins and Tank Dell. It should be a wide open offense. That wasn't the case. Nico Collins got majority of the workload. Nico Collins right now is not having that productive year, only 2 games, that he had last year. At this point in time in the season last year, he was a top wide receiver. And he's trying his best to get Nico Collins a football, but he's getting double covered a lot. They're not moving him around as much as Bobby Slowick did because Nick Caley, he is a first-year offensive coordinator. Bobby Slowick at least had 2 years of experience underneath his belt. And he got to work with CJ one-on-one, so the chemistry was there. Outside of Nico Collins and Christian Kirk, you have rookies in Jaden Higgins and the same with Jalen Noel. You did not score a touchdown against the Los Angeles Rams. You lost this matchup 9-14. Your leading wide receiver was Jaden Higgins. 2 catches, 32 receiving yards. That's not going to get it done. When Nico Collins has 3 catches for only 25 receiving yards, there is something wrong there. You have to get your best players the football over and over again. Dalton Schultz, that first year with the Houston Texans, he was a very good tight end. He wasn't a top-tier tight end. He wasn't on the same level with Brock Bowers and a prime Travis Kelce and George Kittle, but he was a reliable option on third down. He hasn't been the same player. So far, 2 games to this season, and last season, he had a lot of drops. And Dalton Schultz had 3 catches for 28 receiving yards against the Los Angeles Rams. They could have won this matchup, but their offense constantly had mistake after mistake, 3 and out, a dumb sack, offensive line getting blowed up before the play even had a chance to develop. So now you're running a lot of plays closer to the line of scrimmage. And what are teams starting to do? They're starting to drop some of those defensive linemen back into coverage. And CJ, he's so smart, he recognizes that. It's putting more pressure on him because they'll send in a different type of blitz. That's what Todd Bowles did tonight. It was only so much that your quarterback can do when those other wide receivers cannot separate. Jaden Higgins may be that legit wide receiver one day. And the same with Jalen Noel, but they're not ready for that spot right now. They really need Christian Kirk to get healthy as soon as possible. And the miscues last week, CJ was credited with an interception. That wasn't on him. He throws a football to the rookie. Here comes Kobe Durant. It goes down with an interception. They have a chance to go out there and win the game. He gets the ball to the backup running back. It goes for a fumble. They lose that matchup 14-9. You scored 9 points. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the game. That's unacceptable. And you have Nick Chubb in the backfield, but it's not the same Nick Chubb that he once was. He's doing the best that he can. But he was not supposed to be the bell cow with this team. It was supposed to be Joe Mixon. And he got injured before the season even started. He's dealing with a foot injury right now. We don't know when Joe Mixon's going to return. And now we fast forward to this game against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers, they'll get a separate video. They're red hot right now. Baker Mayfield in back-to-back weeks, game-winning touchdowns. This week, you did it with your running backs, but Baker Mayfield made play after play with his legs. The run defense was not there tonight against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and this is rare for DeMeco Ryans' coach team, whether he's the defensive coordinator or the head coach. And he has been a phenomenal head coach so far. Hasn't figured out the offensive end just yet, but it usually takes time. This is year 3 with him as a head coach. But you go back and you look at his defense with the San Francisco 49ers. They were elite against the run. Baker Mayfield, whenever it was 4th and 10, you don't have a spy up because it's Baker Mayfield. He's not one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the league, but you just drop everyone back into coverage. And the pass rush doesn't get home with Will Anderson. And the same with your star edge rusher and Danielle Hunter. They collapse the pocket. Baker Mayfield goes out to the outside. There's no containment there. So he goes out there. He gets a first down. He's drifting outside the pocket. He's making these crazy plays over and over again. There's no contained coverage. Then here comes Bucky Irving in open space, breaking all the tackles that he wants. 17 carries, 71 rushing yards. They get the football to Rashard White, 10 carries, 65 rushing yards. That's the game-winning touchdown. You're off the field. And the cornerbacks did not have a good day last week against Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. So now your defense is breaking down because your offense cannot score points. It's a constant 3 and out. And your defense is always on the field. I don't care how great your defense is on paper. In today's game, the rules favor offense. Eventually, they're going to find cracks in your defense and they're going to expose it. And this has been the problem with the Houston Texans in the NFL playoffs against the Kansas City Chiefs, against the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are the kryptonite for the Houston Texans in the regular season and also in the postseason. They always give them a lot of problems because of the problems that the Houston Texans have. No offensive line protection. No true wide receiver outside of Nico Collins. So they run that press man coverage over and over again, and they overwhelm CJ. But in tonight's matchup, CJ played well enough for them to win. 13-24, 207 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 0 interceptions. He got sacked 3 times. Now, this is where I have a lot of complaints about DeMeco Ryans. You had an opportunity to take a field goal in this matchup, but you went for it on 4th down. It was 4th and goal. Take your points. It would be 13-14. Believe in your defense. Your defense was balling in the 2nd, 3rd, and the beginning of the 4th quarter. Believe in your defense. You're a defensive head coach, but you want to be aggressive. And look, I understand it's easy for me to say I'm not on the sideline, but I don't have that much trust. I don't have that much faith in general in this offense. You trust in your defense. That's the strong suit of the Houston Texans right now. This has been the strong suit of the Houston Texans since DeMeco Ryans became the head coach. So you go out there, you take your 3 points, and then you go out there, you get a 3 and out on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bam, you're in a comfortable situation right there. All you have to do is go out there and get another field goal attempt, or even better, get a touchdown. It's a numbers game at the end of the day. It was a block punt in this matchup. The Houston Texans, they couldn't capitalize off of it because their offense was so bad in the red zone. It was also another situation. They go out there, they get closer. Nick Chubb, he gets that touchdown. He goes for 25 yards. That was a good situation. But here comes Baker Mayfield right down the field. Game-winning drive. They have to fix these things around CJ, because if they don't, you may go to the NFL playoffs, but it'll be one and done, or you get to the second round and you'll be bounced out again. You have to take care of these problems. On the bright side, you do have a Super Bowl ready defense. They had one bad day against the run. But Derek Stingley Jr. is one of the best cornerbacks in the game. You have Kamari Lassner. He's a very good number 2 cornerback. Kalen Bullock is a very good safety. Your entire front 7, they're full of stars. All of those players can stop the run. They can get to the pass on a consistent basis. They just had one bad week in tonight's matchup. But Will Anderson, he's a superstar at the edge rushing position. The same with Danielle Hunter. Mario Edwards is very good against the run with Sheldon Rankins. Henry To'oTo'o has become a very good and consistent linebacker. Azeez Al-Shaair, very physical. Amazing tackler. Christian Harris, he can give you a lot of problems. Your linebackers are golden right there. And you bring in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Part of the reason why you beefed up that secondary is because the Kansas City Chiefs, they went out there and they tested out your safeties over and over again in the regular season and also in the postseason last year. So you go out there and you bring in C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who can play inside the box, who can be a single high safety. And he's a very good playmaker. Had 6 interceptions last year with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I still trust that the Houston Texans will be a top team in this division. You have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Right now, Trevor Lawrence is a turnover machine. He can't take care of the football. The Tennessee Titans, they're a rebuilding team right now with Cam Ward. And I look at the Indianapolis Colts. We'll see if Daniel Jones can keep up that play. If he can, the Houston Texans may be in trouble. When I look at the rest of the schedule, you have the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road. You face the Tennessee Titans at home. You win those 2 games right there, you're 2-2 on the season, and you're up 2 in the division. You'll be 2-0 in the division. That's not a bad situation at all. So you have to win those next 2 games. Then you face the Baltimore Ravens on the road, October the 5th. That's where things can get very scary if you are a Houston Texans fan. So I don't want to come on here and call the season and say that it's completely over. It's time to go out there and tear everything down. I'm not going to say that. But if you continue to run into these same problems over and over again, you're asking for trouble. DeMeco Ryans needs to be better as a head coach in terms of holding players accountable. And you have CJ now. He's calling out the offense. His own words, he said that they were going out there, they were lollygagging in practice, that they weren't taking things serious enough. I hope that's not the case. But when your quarterback is calling you out, you have to be better. And you lost tonight's matchup by 1 point. By 1 point. 20-19. You're just not good enough right now on the offensive end. Hopefully, Joe Mixon can come back this year. Christian Kirk can come back sooner than later. And we can see CJ take those deep shots down the field with a veteran like Christian Kirk. They can get Nico Collins more involved. This is a young offense right now with Nick Caley calling plays, but they need him to step up as well as being an offensive coordinator. But let me know in the comment section below how you feel about the Houston Texans moving forward for the rest of the season. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.